Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over 10 of the best cars for under $500,000 in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now this list is purely based on my opinion. There may be some cars on here that you do like, there may be some cars that you don't like. Anyway guys, we are going to get started with number 10. Alright guys, and at number 10 we of course have the Shafter V12. This thing is really cheap and it is really good. Ever since the Shafter V12 came out, I have owned one and I actually have multiple of these, to be honest. I think I have about 3 of them right now because I always forgot that I had one. So I ended up with 3 of them and I haven't sold any of them because I like the car that much. I have different customizations on every single one of them, so it keeps it fresh. The Shafter V12 was the fastest car in the sedans category for a long time, which is pretty impressive. It is also in the sports category, which is weird. I think it's one of very few cars, if any other cars in this game, that actually share 2 categories, so that is pretty interesting with the Shafter V12. In the sedans category, it does have an insanely high top speed, a higher top speed than any other car in the category, so it is a pretty good vehicle for racing, honestly. Handling wise, it is not the best, that's for sure, but this car wasn't really made to be super great at handling. It was just kind of made to be super good at top speed and just being kind of a luxurious car. So overall, I feel like the Shafter V12 definitely belongs on this list. I absolutely love this thing. Anyway guys, that is it for number 10. We're going to move on to number 9. Alright guys, and at number 9 we have the ENUS Huntley S. I am a huge advocate for the Huntley S. I think it is one of the best SUVs that you can buy in the game, and it's also a very reasonable price. The Huntley S goes for $195,000, making it one of the cheapest cars on this list, and it's the 6th fastest SUV in the game right now, which is pretty good bang for your buck if you think about it. Now, the Huntley is extremely quick in a straight line, and it also has really nice handling for an SUV. I will die on this hill. The Huntley S is one of the best SUVs that you can buy in Grand Theft Auto Online, even to this day, after being added into the game over 7 years ago. The Huntley is a fantastic vehicle, and I would definitely recommend it if your SUV garage is lacking at all. It is a great one to put in, and it won't cost you much money. It has a decent amount of customization options that you can put on it as well to make it kind of unique and your own. Anyway guys, I think that is pretty much it for number 9. We're going to move on to number 8. Alright guys, next up at number 8, we of course have the Grotty Turismo R. This is a super underrated car in Grand Theft Auto Online. You see these things driving around on the street and you don't really think much of them, but of course you can actually buy them. A really cool feature about the Turismo R is of course it is a convertible, which is a pretty rare feature in GTA. There's only a certain amount of convertibles in this game, so getting one that's this good especially is really hard. Now the Turismo R goes for $195,000, the exact same price as the ENUS Huntley S. It's pretty darn cheap. For that price you do get a pretty nice little sports car that you can rip around in. I personally really like the Turismo R. I like how it sounds, I like how it looks, I like how it drives. Really, there's nothing wrong with this thing in my opinion. And for $195,000, you can't really go wrong. The only complaints that I really have about the Grotty Turismo R are that it doesn't have any customization options. But this thing did come out with the game all the way back in 2013, so I can't really hold that against it. It's just a really good car. Of course, you're not going to win any races. This thing is in the sports category, which is dominated by the Italian GTO. You're definitely not going to expect to win any races with this thing. However, it is still a really cool car to use to cruise around in free mode. Anyway guys, that is it for number 8. We're going to move on to number 7. Alright guys, next up at number 7, of course, we have the Canis Seminole. Canis Seminole, one of the greatest cars ever made in Grand Theft Auto Online, and it is so underrated. The Canis Seminole is a fantastic off-road vehicle. It's a fantastic looking vehicle, as I'm sure you guys can see. Beautiful looking, absolutely no flaws with this thing whatsoever. It's a little known fact that the Canis Seminole is actually faster than the Benefactor Krieger in this game, so it's definitely a car that you guys are going to want to pick up. And it is by far the cheapest car on this list, coming in at $30,000. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know how Rockstar is still in business with a car like the Canis Seminole in the game. It's just too overpowered. Really don't understand the economics of this car. I mean, having the performance that it does, being better than any other car in the game, continually for, almost 9 years now. The Canis Seminole's reign of terror really has never let up. And it's really unfortunate that not that many people know about this thing, because it is just such a sleeper. You guys should definitely pick this thing up. It is an absolutely incredible vehicle. You will not be disappointed. Anyway guys, that's it for number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Alright guys, next up at number 6 we have the Benefactor Feltzer. The Feltzer is a super underrated car in this game. This thing goes for $145,000 on Legendary Motorsport, and for that price you get an absolutely incredible car. This thing, like the Grotty Turismo R, also came out in 2013 with the game initially when it released. Now the Feltzer is really cool because it has a ton of customization options that you can do to it. As you guys can see, I've got my car with a full race aero kit on it, and it looks really incredible. However, the Feltzer is really cool because you can make it your own. You can also equip it with absolutely none of what I have on the vehicle and make it very subtle, but still a really good looking sporty car. Now the Feltzer is not going to be the fastest car in the sports category for you. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the Italia GTO exists, so really no other car does. But for cruising around in free mode, the Feltzer can do no wrong. This is an absolutely sick car, and you guys should 100% pick this thing up. It will not disappoint you. It has really good handling, especially with all the racing modifications that you put on it. And honestly, the acceleration and top speed of this vehicle aren't that bad either. It's a fantastic car. Definitely pick one of these things up if you guys have a spare 145 grand lying around. Alright guys, next up at number 5, we have the Lampadati Furore GT. This thing is a super underrated car in this game. I absolutely never see anybody driving this thing, and it is such a shame. This car is so cool. It is of course in the sports category, so I'm not even going to say it. You guys know what I'm going to say. You're not going to win any races. However, in free mode, this car is an absolute unit. The acceleration on this vehicle is very quick, the handling is very good, and overall its looks, in my opinion, are some of the best in the game and some of the most underrated in the game. The Furore GT is such a sick car. It is a little bit more on the expensive side for this list. It is $440,000 off of Legendary Motorsport, so it's a little bit steep in comparison to some of the other cars in this list. However, for the price, you do get an absolutely fantastic car, a super underrated car, one that you will definitely get some looks for driving, because I haven't seen anybody drive this thing in many years. If you want a sick car to take to a car meet, the Furore GT is going to be one for you. This thing is absolutely awesome. It handles super well, accelerates nicely, has a good engine sound. There's really nothing wrong with this car. It's absolutely fantastic. You should pick one up. Anyway guys, that's it for number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Alright guys, next up at number 4, we of course have the Invitero Cockette. Now, the Cockette is a very OG vehicle. Similar to some of the other vehicles on this list, it has been in the game since 2013. Now, the Cockette is a car that you can get off of Legendary Motorsport right at the bottom of the page for around $130,000. You can get the topless version or you can get the regular version. It has a decent amount of customization that you can do to it, which is awesome. And it's also a really good performer. I would say that this thing is better than all of the other sports cars on this list that I have showed off so far. So if you want a really good performing sports car for really cheap, I would have to recommend the Cockette. This thing is absolutely awesome. I've owned several Cockettes in my day and I love every single one of them. They are such awesome cars. Anyway guys, I think they handle so well, they accelerate so well, they look amazing. There's nothing wrong with this car at all. It looks absolutely incredible. And you guys should definitely pick one of these things up if you don't have one already. Anyway guys, that is it for number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Alright guys, next up at number 3, we of course have the Ducati Massacro. This thing is absolutely awesome. For $275,000, there is not a better car that you can buy in my opinion. I have a personal bias towards the Massacro for sure, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say that right now. The Massacro is an absolutely fantastic looking car, and it is a great performing car as well. Like most Ducatis in the game, it does suffer from a tiny bit of understeer, which is a bit of a shame, but that is really the only flaw that this car actually has. It accelerates hard, it handles really well, It's got a ton of customization, very similar to the Feltzer actually. You can make this thing look like a full-blown race car if you want to, or you can make it look a bit more subtle like I've made mine. The Massacro is a car that I actually drive a surprising amount in GTA just because I love how it looks so much. Now it's not the best performing car, you're definitely not going to win any races with it, but it is a really solid vehicle, especially for the price. You guys should definitely pick up a Massacro if you don't have one already. It is a fantastic car, definitely buy one if you have the chance. Alright guys, and at number 1 we have the first vehicle that was ever added into Grand Theft Auto Online, the Grotty Turismo R. This thing goes for $500,000, so it is right on the top of our budget for this video. For that price, it is the best supercar you can get. Now when the Turismo R first came out, it was the fastest supercar in the game, over top of the Adder and the Entity XF. I remember it very vividly, all of my friends selling their Entities and their Adders to buy the Turismo R because it was the new best car in the game. By today's standards, it is one of the slowest supercars in the game, unfortunately. However, it is still a very good looking supercar in my opinion, and it is 100% worth the $500,000 price tag as well. Now you are not going to win any supercar races with this vehicle. For the price of it, it is an absolutely awesome car to cruise around in free mode. I know a lot of people got this thing for free, I believe, with the Criminal Enterprise starter pack, so a lot of you guys are actually probably pretty familiar with the Grotty Turismo R. However, for those of you that aren't, it is a very good car. I would definitely recommend picking up a Turismo if you guys don't have one already. It sounds really good, it looks really good. There's really nothing wrong with this thing. It's a fantastic car. Definitely pick one up if you guys have some spare money lying around. Anyway, with that being said, let's move on to the number 1 best car you can buy in Grand Theft Auto Online for $500,000. Alright guys, and at number 1 we of course have the Pegassi Toros. Now if you're wondering why the Toros is on this list, it is because it is the best SUV in the game, and I figured because it's the best SUV in the game and it's also one of the cheaper SUVs in the game, it is deserving of the number 1 spot on this list. The Toros can be had for $498,000, coming in as the second most expensive vehicle on the list. But for that price, you do get literally the best SUV in the entire game as of the time of recording this video. The Toros has a very good top speed for an SUV, and it also has very good handling and extremely good acceleration. On top of that, the Toros does have a ton of customization that you can do to it to make it your own, which is another great feature with this thing. The Toros is one of my favorite SUVs in the entire game, albeit there are some that I like a little bit more, but as far as performance goes, the Toros cannot be stopped. I would recommend this more than any other vehicle on this list because you could win races with it if you ever go into an SUV race, which I'm not sure that you would, but if you ever do, you'll have a pretty good chance of winning. Overall, the Toros is a fantastic car, guys. I would highly recommend picking this thing up. I swear by this thing. I've won a couple SUV races with this thing, the rare times that I've done them. The Toros is an absolute champion. Anyway guys, I think that is pretty much it for the video. If you guys enjoyed this or if you learned something, a like is of course appreciated. Dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or you didn't learn anything. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.